Yeah. Okay, we are live, guys.
As the clock strikes 7, the vibes alive. Inner circles here, where voices thrive. Turn on your screens, let the magic unfold. Listening and healing as stories are told. Come one, come all, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. In a circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. In a circle podcast where love is well known.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Wherever you're watching from, welcome to another episode of the Inner Cycle Podcast. I'm your host, Abe Kamara. As always, we are here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And tonight's topic is a great one. It's a one that a lot of folks can relate to, especially in Minnesota. If you are from a war-torn country, it's something that you can relate to, right? So our topic tonight is when the door closes, right? The consequences of suspending the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program. And as you all know, right, we have been focusing on immigration this week. The new administration has been hard on the heels on immigration. And so it's like tonight we want to kind of a deep dive into that because especially a lot of Liberians, a lot of Africans have been impacted or have benefited from such a program. And right now it is suspended for I think for 90 days. So tonight we'll be deep diving into that. I'm your host, Abe Kamara, and we'll go around and we'll introduce our panelists, and then from there we'll get into things. Mel?
I'm Melvin Lionel Zia. Good evening, everybody. I hope you join us tonight as we talk about this important issue.
Titus?
Titus here. How you guys doing? I am so glad to be here, form part of this conversation. It's a conversation that is close to every one of us. Um, I believe
SB?
that within our communities, each and every one of us is somehow, some way affected or impacted or have experienced being a refugee, seeking refuge from a war-torn country like Liberia. So I'm excited for this topic. Let's get into it.
Okay. Miss B?
Good evening, everyone. It's your girl, Miss B. And I'm excited about the conversation tonight, continuing on, us and our status right now in these times. So welcome.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, our great panelists. Right. Before we dive into the topic, there's another current event, tragic event. If you've been following the news last night or yesterday, right? It's the first time in like many years, a tragic airline accident, American Airlines, coming from Wichita, Kansas, crash at Reagan National Airport, and all 67 passengers that were on board lost their lives. and also the helicopter that ran into or whatever happened, right? Our three crew members also lost their life on a helicopter. So we here at Inner Cycle Podcast want to take this moment to extend our condolences to the families. That I mean, this is a tragic situation. You never want that. If you have flew in a plane before, obviously it's like moments to landing, and they tell you that that's a very very sad situation. So we want to take a moment of silence and just pray for those folks. Our condolences, our prayers, and everything are with them. We pray for them. We hope that we can trust the good Lord and to get through this moment. So prayers up, folks. Prayers up. Stuff. So with that, we'll dive into our topic, right? When the door closes, the consequences of suspending the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program. Mel, I will start with you. As a Liberian, you know, what what you think suspending this program, like the memory it brings, right? Is like we Liberia, it's a war-torn country, went through 14 years of civil war, and a lot of Liberians were impacted by this program. What memories does it bring, right? When you hear like it is now being suspended or might possibly, being, might go away.
It's sad. It's sad. Hopefully, they can do something about it to enact it. I think, this have been in place since 1980. The U.S.
Mm,
Act to just assist, impacted vulnerable populations such as Liberia, not just Liberia, but other countries that are impacted by war, and it have saved multiple lives throughout, through the existing of it. So suspending it, I think is detrimental to those countries that are vulnerable, that are at war, specifically civilians that are, are vulnerable, right? This program has helped tremendously. And also, it will also impact the US as well, in a sense. If you kind of dive into things, stats show us that, the refugees program since 2005 up to 2019, refugees that have settled in the US of A have contributed $124 billion to the economy. So
mm,
that is important. That impact is tapping now. There are other things that are gonna be impacted as well. So key impact it has on us is the vulnerable population that are experiencing war. And as a Liberian, I did not come on resettlement program, but I have family members that have come on that.
okay.
Most of my sisters that were able to, fight for me to be here. If they have not come on that program, I would not
Mm,
have been in America today. So, hearing that it impact us in a sense, even though we don't
yeah,
have our country is not at war, but
yeah,
a bunch of other Liberians that are contributing to not just in the US of A, but to other
yeah,
countries around the world that have limited, like these assistance and
sure.
agency
Yeah.
America set up to kind of contribute to the society. So it's sad. So I will start with that
Well,
tonight.
if they with the
Christina.
economic impact, I'll push it up a little bit though. If it has such an economic impact, 123 billion, I mean, as your number stated, if it has such an economic impact, what do you think is the administration motivation of trying to end it or suspend it? What's the motivation? What do you think will be the motivation behind that? Because from what I understanding from you, it's a net, right? Is that okay? They are helping vulnerable folks to come, but these vulnerable folks when they come here, they contribute to the what economic viability of this great country.
I honestly don't know what the administration decision is based on.
Mhm.
I myself asking questions, but the way they are dealing with immigration, since the inception of this administration, it has a lot of questions kind of associated with it. Things that have been in existence,
Okay,
trying to stop it without
sure.
giving really concrete reasons. It kind of
Uh,
raised a lot of questions in our brow. But again,
okay.
you have this program in place that have helped, and like you mentioned, and the stats I just gave you, and coming up
Yeah.
and say you want to stop it. Is it because the influx of immigrant and illegal immigrant, and this program is not that? So I'm myself kind of pondering about it. I cannot fathom what
Okay.
the reasons are behind their decision.
Okay. Titus, Minnesota, like I mean, you're not here in Minnesota. That's where Cycle Podcast is headquarters. But it's the home to the largest, right? One of the largest, refugee community in the U.S. You got a monk, you got a Somalian, you got Liberians. What what effect you think this is going to have on this community, right? I mean, here in Minnesota, what effect you think it's going to have? Because it has been a hub for so many refugees.
Correct. This is going to bring a lot of distress on the immigrant community, and when we, often talk about refugees or immigrants, a lot of the focus go on Africans,
Hmm.
but there are European immigrants and refugees as well that are going to be impacted by this. There's a lot of tension that is
Yeah.
building up as President Trump attempts to implement these different forceful measures
Hmm.
in the direction of protecting the borders and clamping down on chain immigration into the United States. But
Yeah.
something that also bugs me
Hmm.
is something that we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
While he's clamping down on illegal immigration,
Yeah.
he's taking it further to also block, legal immigration into the United States. So
Okay.
it raises a point of contention and a contradiction to what he's actually attempting to attain here.
Okay. Okay. Ms. B, then do you think, right, the administration motivation is where we have been hearing, to close the border, the southern border, there has been emergency has been declared, but a refugee program that create pathways for legal migration to the United States. Why do you think ending the with I mean with the administration trying to end it or shut that door, would it lead to other legal programs, legal means of coming to America? You think they will target it next?
I've always told people there's basically only two ways to citizenship in this country. Either you're born here or a citizen files for you. That's the only real way. And, I know these refugee programs have been in existence, but the cancellation of the refugee program is just shows you that there is a greater agenda here.
Mm,
Because, like, as other panelists have already said, if your target is illegal immigrants, undocumented folks, then why would you get rid of a program that has a legal pathway for people to enter your country? This is a program that allows people to enter legally, and they already have an established tracking system, right? And so
yeah.
you can track the folks who are entering this country. You know
Mhm.
what they're going to be doing. You know where they're going to be. You know where they're located. They're not the folks you're going to be worrying about that'll be under the radar and causing so-called crime in your country because the way in which they're entering. So
Okay.
this shows you he just has a bigger agenda beyond I'm trying to get rid of illegal immigrants.
What do you think is the bigger agenda then? Because it's something is that you bring a whole another dimension here. What do you think is the agenda? Is the bigger agenda?
I mean, we'll just there's a lot of rhetoric that has come with this administration. Make America great again, right? Going back to the golden age. Like what
But those
time?
are economic messages, though, right? Those are messages meant to make America the envy of the world economically. Make America great again. Make them, bring us back to that golden age where there's prosperity. What does that have to do with immigration?
But I mean, there's no data to support when America was great and which part of America great again. Which part in history are you taking us back to that was great?
Have-
What data
What
supports this level of greatness that you are
what
going to
about the
say,
industrial
okay,
age? The industrial age, or even going back to Ronald Reagan years, right? Money in America. Going back to those times.
those times because the
Uh,
economy was growing.
yeah, it was booming, and that's what it is, and that's what he
When you have
means.
a growing economy, you can't say that's when it was great.
Yeah.
It was growing. It was transitioning from the depression state, the depression years. Um, Technology is advancing, and of course, that's the start of something new and different. But it's still not a time in your history that you can mark to say this is what defined success in
Hmm.
its entirety, and then because we can use this to define success, then this is why we want to go back to those. Ronald Reagan period was not a period of the full success, comparing
Okay.
1986 to 2024 to say, you
Okay.
know what, those were our best years, so let's go back to that. There's no data to support that.
Okay. So then, do you think the administration, the larger agenda here is what is to shut the entire door, right? No, no immigrants should come in. Is that the agenda? Do you
I mean,
think?
leadership. good or bad leadership, it's always about population control. So
Mm.
I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, so they
No
want to.
matter what kind of leader you are, it's
Mm.
your leadership is always about population control.
Okay. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing when the door closes, right, the consequences of the U.S. suspending the Refugee Resettlement Program. It has been a program so many people have benefited from, no matter where you are, from Southeast Asia, from Africa, as you know, Tata said, from Europe. So you can comment in the chat if you are a refugee, if you are once a refugee and came in this country and benefited from it. If you want to contribute to this conversation, please do that. You can also call our number 817-600-1525. Mel, you mentioned, like family of yours benefited from the program. What personal story do they share with you, right? Is like how the program kind of, what the program meant to them, if ever they
Well, I
share some
mean,
personal stories with you.
they personally don't have to tell me the personal story, but what I've seen over time, or I
Hmm.
can go into that. So remember 1990 when Liberia was at war and
Yeah,
people escaped from the war and kind of exited, went to the neighboring countries like Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Guinea, and what's the other, Sierra Leone, right?
yeah.
Um, to settle there, they were suffering. They were living in these kind of makeshift structures, tapoline and
Hmm.
stuff. They were not eating good food. People were dying from malaria and stuff, right? And from that on, I think it took some time when the refugee thing kind of started with the Liberians, like around 95, 96. So looking at that condition, they couldn't go back home to where they were, right? Because war was going on, people were dying. A little bit of Liberia, 200 plus thousand people got killed by the war. Now, if these people
250,000,
had not had,
according to estimate, 250,000.
yes, thank you for that number. If these people
Mm-hmm.
had not had the opportunity, right, to come here, some
Hmm.
of them would have been dead by now. So that in itself, in totality, looking into that, right? The refugee program has saved a lot of lives, not just coming here for opportunity, but saving humanitarian, you know, aid basically. So those are the story. My siblings, when they came here,
Hmm.
coming from a country that was at war and settling in a country that basically they were not really opportune to do something for themselves. They saw opportunity. They earn a lot of things here just by being here. In so doing, they have contributed as well tremendously to the economy here in America. So a lot of all the Liberians have fallen in that kind of category as well. Even though there are few, but most people that have come on immigration status come here and they are contributed to society as well. They work here, they do a lot of things, they're contributing,
Hmm.
helping other people back home to where they're from. And these things kind of save the international community as well. In
Yeah.
reducing crime rate, in reducing, people just avoiding to try to come to America because of lack of opportunity, right? So
Hmm.
if you shut this down, this would be these are things you have to
Okay.
deal with as
Okay.
America, the US of A.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing though, just real quick there, right? I mean, when the Liberian War, I think Civil War started in 1989, that refugee program, I think, kicked into gear right away. I mean, from Africa Coast, some folks from Sierra Leone, it started, you know what I mean, and things like that. So just want to point that out, since 1989, right, Liberians have been coming here on that program. But one thing
Right.
though, right, Titus, let me point this out. Don't you think stopping it or suspending it, right, will maybe contribute to global peace, right? That's one of the agenda of this administration, right, is to peace through strength. If you say, look, man, you're trying to resolve those things over there instead of, like conflict in Sudan, right, or in the Democratic Republic of Congo, of Afghanistan, all these places. Don't you think trying to, maybe suspend this program or shut it down altogether will try to force these folks, right, these countries to try to, um, create peace among themselves?
That is quite the opposite effect that it will have on the global stage.
Why do you think
Um,
so? Why?
part of part of this program
Hmm.
implemented into the foreign policy was to actually you're breaking in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Clear. Go ahead.
Okay. Is to actually bring relief to global crisis, global humanitarian crisis, as my brother was laying out, the historical context of the act that was launched,
Hmm.
and that act even kind of drew strength from the 1951 Refugee Convention, to be able to absorb folks that are in distress in different countries, right? They'll be able to provide a safe haven globally for everybody around the world. So suspending this, actually, you are increasing the damages, the stress, the potential risks, everything that can go negatively in other countries that are undergoing unrest. How can you interrupt or intervene in providing peace into an unstable nation if you're not able to provide outlets for folks who are, at the verge of probably losing their lives? These things have serious consequences. There are people in countries whose lives are actually on the line and need to get out of those areas. They use these programs to get out of there and seek asylum, political asylum, once they're able to leave that country. These are serious matters, and I don't even think I don't know how the U.S. president is even considering these other risks associated with suspending or any of these type of programs across the world. What about the rights of humanity around the world? What
But
can the
this is why,
US,
as I
the
said, right,
greatness, the
this,
greatness that you're attempting to boast of,
uh
that Trump is attempting to bring America back to?
yeah.
What place would America have in the humanitarian or human right protecting human right crisis globally across the world if you are actually suppressing or opposing humanity globally,
That's,
especially those who are seeking refuge in your country?
yep.
So Miss B, then do you think it's giving the administration or the United States bad rap? But the United States is known as, a beacon of hope and freedom. So do you think by suspending the refugee program is giving the US a bad rap?
It is. It's sending a message to your allies and your enemies,
What
right?
message? What message?
Like if I'm your enemy and
Hmm.
now these folks can't find refuge with you, they are not your priority. You're not paying attention. It allows me to carry on and wreak havoc everywhere where I've been wreaking havoc, right? As long as I don't bring it to your doorstep, you and I won't have a problem. That's what America is saying. It's like, as long as you don't bring it to my doorstep and you're not impacting my citizens directly, whatever you want to continue to do out there on the global scale, whatever, enemies, whatever havoc you want to continue to wreak on other people, go ahead and do that. That's what I feel this action is saying, because as we are stopping this refugee program, he's also trying to pull back on international funding and other homeland security areas as well. So, and I
Yeah,
just want to say we
but those
we
are but those
scapegoat
are
Trump,
hmm
but it's a whole administration.
hmm
There's nothing the president does on his own. I think the only thing the president as commander in chief really has 100% authority, and even then he don't, is to whether it's or not for us to go to war. But it's a whole cabinet, it's a whole administration. We have a whole Senate, and they are supporting what he's doing. They're supporting his leadership. So it's not
as
just
I've
Trump.
said, as I've said many times since we began kind of this series on this whole week about immigration, as I've said, right, the administration campaign on these things, campaign on these policies. So it's not anything new to folks here, right? Even when the police chief were with us, I pointed that out, right? The administration campaign on this. So if they are implementing their policies, obviously, right, I agree with you. It's not just I mean, this what the people voted for. So I mean, it's like, why should global problem be America's problem? We just, I mean, what is that? We paying, paying your taxes. Yeah, why should other people problem be our problem, like the refugee program?
Because America is a melting pot.
So if
every
it is a melting
every
pot, so would you
every
just
nationality, every
mhm,
nation, it's a country of immigrants, period.
okay?
Every nationality is represented in this country.
Mhm.
So let's just not act like those other immigrants don't exist. Well, they're now, they're citizens, their status has changed. The reality is that everybody here in this country has somebody in another country that they're connected to, family member or whatever. And
Okay.
so we influence decisions that happen not only for us here, but for our family members in other countries as well.
Okay,
So we
Mel.
should care, and we do care.
Okay, Mel. What's about the argument like this whole refugee program and other immigrant program, even though they are legal, but they put a lot of strain on local communities, right? Like, hey, it's like, I mean, like local communities, like maybe Minneapolis, maybe like Fargo, in North Dakota, right? These programs, when they bring these people here, they are putting a lot of what strain on local resources. What about that argument?
I don't think that will hold. You just named Fargo just now, and Fargo, there's a vast land in that place that is looking for people to work there. Right, there are a lot of jobs they create, and these people coming there, they are not going there to just sit down. They're going to take over those jobs and do it. However, I don't think that argument will hold. It another thing that this will kind of create, right? Putting your heart to it, you
Mhm.
increase humanitarian aid, the dependency of it, right? So people that are impacted, remember now, if you hold it, they're going to start looking up to a lot of humanitarian aid for their survival. People that are impacting, that are in these war-torn countries, they start
Mhm.
looking up to America in terms now that putting your heart to it, without spending even more money that they are not going to get anything from, in a sense. So,
Okay.
so with the statement you just made, like it gonna affect putting strain on community, like you mentioned,
Yeah,
Minneapolis and all
local
of that.
resources.
Look
It
at
does push on local resources because when these folks come, sometimes you have to find housing for them. It's like you're not just coming on their feet, right? It's like maybe a community might only have 2 or 3 hospitals, but now it's like so many people, housing shortage and all. I mean, so many factors, right? Local
and
communities are complaining that these things are putting strain on their resources.
and that's sometimes we invest into people, or we invest not just people for a reason. That short period of time you invest in them is to kind of have them settle in and get on their feet. Those things happen,
Mhm.
but look at the
Mhm.
long-term impact. That could be the argument you can kind of push against that, right? Look at the
Mhm.
long-term
Mhm.
impact. These people coming, some
Mhm.
of them working in hospitals, some of them working in nursing home, some of them
Yeah.
working in different areas, and their job contribute tremendously to the society. So don't look at it from that short period of time, the 1 or 2 months you kind of host them. Is that 1 month? You're not going to host them again for the entirety of the time they'll be in the U.S. of A. And think about that in that way. Think about how they are impacting the society, how the contribution they are making. Don't just look
Okay.
at it from that one aspect.
Okay. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing the refugee program, right? When the door closes, right? Because hey, the door has been closed for 90 days so far. The U.S. government has suspended, the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program, a program that so many folks, millions of folks have benefited from Southeast Asia, from Africa, from Europe, from all over the world. And tonight, that program is on pause until a 90-day review. And who knows, after that, it might go away. But Miss B, do you think folks that have benefited from that program, like the Somali community, Liberians, or the Hmong community, do you think folks that have been beneficiary of the resettlement program should get together and maybe petition the administration? Now, look, man, this program, as Mel mentioned earlier, have contributed 123 billion dollars economically to the U.S. economy. Don't you think these folks that have benefited from it should get together and petition the administration that it is beneficial to the United States? Do not end it.
You see, that's why voting counts, and that's why people do all this voter engagement work, because
Well, the voting is over now. What can they do? I guess.
so I say that to say is because
Okay.
to some extent we are left to be the beneficiary of the results of this election.
Mm.
And I don't feel like this is an administration that's going to be influenced or persuaded about by people doing old school organizing. Honestly, the things that you're talking about is like you want people to organize and form these coalitions, and therefore
Advocacy, petition,
yes, and
advocacy,
you want
petition.
a level of advocacy. So you see, that's what happens, right?
Mhm.
You guys elect somebody like Trump and you want to leave. Now the consequences, you're bearing the consequences, and you want to leave the work up to us, the advocates that have been on the ground and for so long, recognizing the importance of voter engagement and doing all of this work for voter turnout. And now you want us to take the same energy that we used
I'm
and
saying the
didn't get the
beneficiary of the
result.
program. I'm saying the beneficiary of the
Those
program.
are
That
the
means
folks you're asking to, they're now
voting the
citizens.
administration, I don't think was a wrong thing,
Those
right?
are the
There's
people
so
you're
many good
asking.
things the administration has been doing. I'm talking
They're
about the beneficiary
beneficiaries.
of this
So of course
program.
they're gonna they're beneficiaries. They
Uh-huh.
they understand the importance of this program, but you want them now to be the same one to advocate with an administration that does not look like that they can be influenced, right? Is that a place we want to put our energy? To some extent, it's like,
Why
is
don't
that,
you want to put your energy there? Why don't you want to
I'm
put your
just
energy in
asking,
there?
it's a question.
Well,
Those
yeah,
who
I
are
mean, the beneficiary of
beneficiaries,
the, I'm asking, right? So my question to you was, right? I think personally, I think if you are benefited from this program now already, you still have millions. I mean, one of the story that came, that came up, like you have all these, I mean, folks from Afghanistan that already had their plane ticket, right, booked and everything. When the program was suspended, right, their names were taken off of those airline manifests, right? Don't you think folks that and they have families here?
so
Don't
I
you
would
think
tell you,
beneficiaries of those programs
it's
should what?
happening.
I mean,
It's
should
happening. Those people are, it's 24/7 job, 365 days a year. The advocacy groups are on the ground now more than ever. But it's like there's so many things that they could have been doing, but now they have to transition and pivot their fight to fight what they knew was going to happen as a result of this person becoming elected and becoming the president. So it's like, is it the
so
best way to be utilizing our energy? No, but unfortunately that's what we do, so that's what's going to happen. The advocate groups are on the ground. They've been on the ground from day one, and they are on the ground right now doing the best they can to kind of see how they can tap into legislatures, what kind of bills can be written, what lawsuits can be brought, and lawsuits are happening. States are suing like crazy, and so those are some of the work of the advocacy people, right? To start putting these lawsuits to sue overturn some of these executive orders, to say they're unconstitutional. Does the
but
president
the
really have the
refugee,
right to do it?
I mean, the refugee program is not if they want to end it, that's not unconstitutional though.
But I'm just saying, not
So
just the refugee
okay.
program, and
Mhm.
many of his executive orders, people
Okay.
are pushing different lawsuits. States are suing against a lot of them, as well as this one.
Okay. Titus, if for example it would come to, I mean, if after the 90 days, after I think 75 or 90-day period, right, and the programs, the US government decide to end it, do you think there are other viable alternatives, right, that maybe family members can, use to, file in for their relatives to, I mean, to immigrate to the United States? You are shaking your head, Miss B, but I'll come back to you. Titus, you
Well,
want to take that one?
well, for the Immigration Act, there are a lot of other alternatives here. This, I don't know if we should be focusing on those
Okay, Miss B,
for filing for your relatives, your loved ones from back home or wherever they are.
yeah.
Attaining a status here. There are a lot of other options per the Immigration Act to file for relatives and loved ones.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, in at the same time, this will cause. You were saying
No, no, go ahead. We'll listen to you.
this will cause a lot of damages.
What
You know,
damages? Not
just.
to
I
America.
mean,
I mean, not to America.
the
What damages will it cost
psychological,
America?
emotional, and even at times physical damages.
To
And
who?
as I mentioned earlier, there are
Mhm.
folks in who find themselves in countries that they really that this is a matter of life and death. They really need to get away. Again, these are not any of those repercussions are not really being considered by 47 at this time, but this will cause a lot of drawback even from the international community. You're not the United States looking at this. It's not protecting the rights of folks around the world, even though the champion,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
The champion to be a democratic nation
Yeah.
that is bent on protecting the civil rights of everybody. In fact, in some instances, they interfere into the affairs of other nations,
Okay.
accusing them of violating the rights of their own citizens. So
Mhm.
imagine going to that extent, but
Mhm.
at the same time, on the other side of the coin,
Mhm.
displaying a blatant disregard
Uh-huh.
for human rights globally. So
Good.
yeah, while it is true that there are other options for folks to be able to come here,
Yeah.
this is massive as far as violation of human rights is concerned.
Okay. Mel, do you think the policy of the United States, I mean, the foreign policy of the United States sometimes contribute to some of those, I mean, to some of the conflicts around the world and create and create and lead to refugees, right? And now these refugees have, want to resettle in the United States. Do you think that's the case? The foreign policy of the United States contribute to some of these conflicts around the world?
I mean, yes, I think we agree to that. Some of the foreign policy, they're going out there saying this should stop and we got to stop it now, and the war kind of continue between two countries in America, John. There, it contributing to it as well. So yes, they got to look into this again. I think if you are considered as a world superpower, there are a lot of other things that make you world superpower, and this is one of them. Considering people that are in desperation, to leave, considering their safety and their well-being should be something that you should prioritize. So yes, to answer your
But what's
question,
about the
yes.
argument? Though? What's about the argument? This is a time to look after Americans. Americans in America. We can't just be taking care of everyone else. It is a time to look after America and Americans. Trying to make America great. You can't be trying to take care of everyone else. Making America great or bringing us back to that golden age. You can't
America,
be,
America has
you can't be looking
America
after
has
everyone
pride
else.
herself on.
But bringing people here
Uh-huh.
does help to make us great. We have jobs
How?
here
How?
that we have jobs here that we alone are not fulfilling. These refugees come through a resettlement
But we
program.
have unemployed
They're
we have
helping.
we
They're
have unemployed
helping
folks here
to
though.
work. What?
We have unemployed folks here. Folks here are looking for jobs and they can't find it.
They are most likely unemployed by choice.
Oh really?
As somebody who worked for a staffing agency, and you
Uh,
would call them because they have a dislocated worker portal,
mm-hmm.
and you will call some of them, and they will tell you stop calling them because they don't want to work. They want to still sit at home and collect unemployment. That's a whole nother topic. There's a lot of lazy Americans here. That's why
Oh
unemployment
wow.
exists.
Wow.
Let's be
Wow.
honest. And
Okay.
like Mel touched on some of the data.
Uh-huh.
There is no data that says it speaks to those fears that these lazy Americans have about refugees causing crime or taking our jobs. There is no data to prove
Less
that.
than 0%.
Thank you. These people are not causing more crimes than American citizens themselves here that are causing crimes. The
No one
reality.
talking about crime. No one talking about them causing
Those
crime. They
are
tell us,
those are the
let us.
fears that
What
get
is wrong with focusing
perpetuated
on America
and
and Americans?
policies like this happen. Those are
Mm,
the fears that the average citizen has that gets perpetuated, and then these type of policies get passed, or you have somebody get into office because of these fears.
mhm.
I don't want illegal immigrants here because they're taking our jobs. I don't want illegal immigrants here because they're causing crime. False. Those two narratives have false. You'll not find any data to support it, right?
Okay.
Again, when we have such high amount of jobs that are not being fulfilled, we have a small population size according to the rest of the world. We're underpopulated. The
So
reproduction rate
because
is
we are
a problem.
underpopulated,
And Trump's administration was worried about the reproduction rate in his first term. They were the ones who put out the fact that, and that's why the abortion and the anti-abortion policy got passed, because of the low reproduction rate in this country. We're not populating the country at the rate it needs to be populated, and we'll fall into a problem where we won't have enough people to do these jobs. We won't have enough citizens to keep this economy going. So let's stop this thing where we're thinking when people coming outside, they're causing harm. No, they've been helping us, right? When we're talking about low reproduction rate that's been happening here for the last 2 decades in this country.
okay. Yeah, okay, but let me just push you on a little bit though. Why did is like the reason why some of these things are happening is because sometimes some of the woke, the woke policies or the woke, you know what I mean, things like that, right? It's like okay, it's like I don't want to have kids or I mean all the other things, right? All the other factors. It's not like folks don't want to say, okay, you know what? Trying to make America great, let folks be free to have kids, right? You know what I mean, and things like that. Stop putting all kind of stuff in place, like preventing people for living meaningful and productive lives.
People not having kids is an economic thing. Why should I have kids if I can't afford to take care of them?
Who told you can't
The
afford to take
cost
care
of
of it
living is
in this
high.
great
The
country?
cost of living, we have data. The cost of living is high. The cost of living is high. You have low wage paying jobs. I can't afford to take care of these kids. You don't even, as for somebody, you have an anti-abortion policy. You don't guarantee me universal health care. So how am we going to birth these kids healthily into this world in the first place?
Well, we live in
You
a
don't get,
capitalist
you don't
society. We don't want
guarantee
to.
me.
We live
There's
in a
no
capitalist
guarantee
society.
income.
We don't want to bring
There's no
socialism into the
guarantee
mix.
income. You don't even want to give me paternity leave. There is no guarantee income. Australia, all these other countries that don't even have the wealth that we have these things in place. Pay paternity leave, guarantee health care. It's like they
Free
encourage
healthcare.
the reproduction to
Mhm.
happen. Where America, you want to pay me low wages. You don't want me to take time off to take care of this child. You don't want to give me the healthcare system that I need to be able to bring this child into this world. So
Mhm.
miss me. Those are the problems. It's not nobody fear of having kids. So therefore, you need
So to solve
to
this problem, we should just accept everybody from around the world to come here.
yes, we need people. That's just the reality.
Okay. Well, that's well, the administration doesn't agree that we need people, right? Is that we have enough people here that want to work. So I think, I mean, that's why they say, hey, man, let's pause some of these programs. But Titus, do you think though, right, by by implementing policies like this, right, trying to end, illegal, I mean, as I said before, right, the refugee program is a legal means of coming to America. Do you think by trying to end policies like this will create a situation where in like to come to America now it's going to be very, very difficult as an immigrant, as someone, outside of America looking to come here, it's going to be very difficult.
I think you create more opportunities for illegal immigration.
How? No, if we're going to shut that border, I mean,
If
how?
if listen, what border? If folks
They
do
will
not
break
have
that wall down.
the money about to go to Mexico and
Break it
dig a
down.
tunnel and follow
An emergency declaration. There has been an emergency declaration that the border is I mean, it's an emergency. So,
and yeah, and he's even
And they're probably
taking
using the same Mexicans, undocumented or illegal people to build that border, build that wall.
to
That's the
build a
sad
wall.
part about all of this.
He's even trooping the army towards the border. I don't know. Again, that's another discussion because I
mhm,
mean, what purview? But again, Trump said he will invoke the Insurrection Act that will allow him to get the army over there. But what I'm saying is, if you put a stop, look, if a door closes and you're not opening another door, listen, people will open, they will break the wall, they
They
will
will break
bust
that
another
door
door,
down.
they'll open
Yep.
the window, they will make other options available to themselves. I don't understand how you're trying to crack down on illegal immigration, but
mhm.
then you're putting a stop to legal immigration.
Okay.
So what is the focus? Are you just focusing on just
The
stopping
focus is,
immigration
I
at
mean, no, no.
all?
Yes, I mean, the focus is right.
You
Number
just
one,
stopping
these
immigration
programs.
completely in this country. The history and the foundation of this country is heavily based on immigration. After all these years of the sweat, blood, and tears being built on the backs of immigration. So, at what point now you feel like America is secured enough to go without the immigration
That
population,
part.
or
That
at
part.
what point now you're
Mhm.
saying that America is there is too much insecurity due to the population when the data does not support this?
Okay.
I don't know. It's a skewed tactic and mindset.
Okay. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing when the door closes, right? We are discussing the refugee program. It's a program so many folks have benefited from Africa, especially from Liberia, where we're from, right? From Somalia, our Somalia brothers and sisters that are listening to us, from Southeast Asia, right? Our Hmong family that are listening to us from everywhere, from Sudan, whatever country that have been affected by war, some way, somehow you have benefited from this program. But Mel, again, let me come back to this aspect of it. Right? What about the argument, right? I mean, it's like an open door policy. The whole refugee thing, the whole immigration thing is like an open door policy. You have the resettlement program. You have illegal immigrants coming through the southern border. You have this other program. You have the TP. You have so many avenues. It's like, as Trump said,
What's
folks
the
are just
fear?
flooding in, right? It's like, what about that argument? Folks, let them put a pause to it and say, okay, who should come in, who shouldn't be coming in?
There are reasons why those things were enacted in place. I'm not in support of people entering America illegally. I wouldn't do that if I were outside America, because first thing I'm going to think about my safety, my
Mhm.
well-being, and
Mhm.
and my survival. Like, I'm going over there that I don't have, nothing. I'm not even guaranteed anything. I'm not going to put myself through that. However,
Mhm.
these programs that are put in place, the
Yeah.
refugees, the diversity visa thing, right? And all of these,
Mhm.
there are reasons why those things are put in place, and those
Mhm.
reasons are prevailing into the data that I just kind of spoke about. Now they are contributing to society. There are a lot of jobs available, and a lot of Caucasian not willing to do certain job because a
Mhm.
bunch of them are educated. So they're coming here contributing to those kind of doing those kind of work. So ending it now without opening another avenue, you are creating problem. The work we do, you cannot say you're solving problem by creating problem. Then you are not solving a
Yeah.
problem at all. If you want
No.
to, if you want to solve a problem, solve it in a way that you are not creating another problem. So then the problem you're trying to solve, it doesn't get worse. And that's what trying to happen. What going to happen here now? My brother
Okay.
Tatos mentioned something which is very true and it's factual. A lot of people dream about this country. They dream about America. It's not because they want to come here. It's not because they think this is just all what it is. They actually want opportunity, and America provides opportunity, which is why these
But what
programs
can I
that
see
are put into
opportunity be
place,
created? What can I see opportunity be created back home? Where they coming from?
they don't have control over that. They actually don't have control over that. You know, people that are in leadership do. We can go into the kind of conversation. You and I, if we are still listening, we don't have control over job creation. We don't have opportunity over, what the leaders do to make sure things are provided to its citizen. And America does that, which makes this country great. So people coming here on the basis of these opportunities are created, and they need them as well. America need these people. So, and that's why the argument you just put in, the avenues are created, like we just need a refugee program, the DV program, and all of these things are created to help repatriate people into America, not just to have for the American government to support them, but at a certain point in time, they get into society and start doing a lot of things. So that there you go with my reporter to that argument, whoever will say that.
I will kind of argue though that as I say again, right, as I've been saying all week, as I've been on this topic of immigration, I've said the current administration campaign heavily on immigration. So I think the majority of the U.S. population support the current policy because they know this was coming, as Ms. B alluded to earlier. They know this was coming. The majority of the voting populace, right, support this. So it's like they don't want people coming flooding in like it have been happening.
The argument it had was
Hmm.
against illegal immigrant. That was the argument. Going to
No,
stop
it
people
was
flooding into America.
it's like we're going to look at the argument was okay, illegal immigration, but we're going to look at the entire immigration policy.
Okay. So have they looked at the entire immigration policy? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm just saying they
Have
have
they looked
started.
at it when data prove over time that we keep sitting here, the people contributing to society? Let me get you another fact.
Mhm,
90% of immigrants that come to the country are
mhm.
law-abiding people. Stats are there.
Yep.
90%.
Facts.
Now,
So
so
where
so
is the narrative coming from then that immigrants create crimes,
There's a
immigrant
huge
brings
narrative.
drugs?
that
Where is
just
that coming from?
Miss B alluded to the false narrative they created, that the people
Yes.
taking their job, which we don't have no data to prove that they are
Yes.
coming here causing problem. I just gave you another fact.
Mhm.
90%
False
of
fears.
immigrants that come to America are law-abiding citizens. So if you say they will overhaul the immigration system, had they really look at that data, the data we just gave you guys, had they
Mhm.
look at that? If they look at that, how can you look at something that is benefiting your country in a way, and not causing problem, and say you're putting stop to it? Then you actually did not look at it. Then you didn't take into account the data you have in your hand that is benefiting the country. So yes, if just because you run on a policy and win on it does not mean you just gotta go about now just ending things that have been put in place legally, helping people around the world and also helping the country. You got to look at those things. But Yeah. How can you just make those arguments without really looking into the facts we just gave you?
Okay.
So a lot
Miss
of the
B.
things you just mentioned, they are false narrative.
Okay, Miss B. Like the refugee program is a legal program. The refugee resettlement program is a legal program. Do you think folks that are here, right, that are benefited from most of these legal programs, if you're immigrants sitting here, maybe your family are still out there, do you be worried? Because I mean, we have the chain migration. Once you are here, sometimes you want your family to, to join you. Do these folks be worried that, other programs might be targeted?
We should very much be worried. I mean, we're talking today about the refugee program, but we forget there are people on temporary status. There's people on deferred DED status that were supposed to turn those DEDs into citizenships.
Mm,
So all of these programs are being, there are people who are just here seeking political asylum. And
mhm,
while they're seeking asylum, they're on work authorization. That's their own real status. So if those work authorizations do not get renewed,
mhm.
they're basically here with no status.
Okay.
Yep.
And we have a lot of our Liberians who are here waiting for their asylums to be renewed.
Okay.
And if they're come this year, because work authorization renewals happens every year,
What time?
right? I think around July, August time. If
Mhm,
those things do not get renewed, just think about people who have been here, have educated themselves, paid for their
mhm,
own college degrees,
mhm. Yeah.
have bought homes, are
Yeah.
raising families. Now
Mhm.
that income will be lost.
Okay.
And as we think, that's why I said there's always a higher agenda. You have the four wealthiest men owning a
You
lot
keep
of
talking
land.
about agenda. You keep talking about agenda. What's the higher agenda here? Is
Some
there
of the
something
higher
you know that we
agenda
don't
is
know? Yeah.
if like the folks that were here legally
Uh-huh.
and you stop certain papers from being processed,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be amazed how many homes, single family homes, are owned by private firms,
Mm.
right? That
Okay.
right now the average citizens were competing against private firms when it comes to buying a home.
So what is
Those
the
are some of
agenda?
the things. The agenda is
Mm-hmm.
why does Bill Gates want to occupy 6 million acres of land in this country, or 16 million acres of land?
What is the
These are
agenda?
some of the agenda. These are the agendas I'm talking about, Abraham.
To
If you
own
have
land. To own land.
to own land, to control, that's some of the agenda I'm talking about. We want equal distribution of wealth to be happening in this country. When that's not happening,
Uh-huh.
then you have a problem, because at the end of the day, you lose that democracy becomes threatened. So
What
a
does
lot of these
immigration to the United States have to do with wealthy billionaires
immigration,
owning land?
like I said,
Uh-huh.
you don't have to have status to buy a house,
Okay.
but your inability to be able to pay that mortgage is going to cause you to lose homes.
Okay.
If we're not developers right now are not building at the rate that they were, because everything is high. Interest rate is high, the cost of goods is high.
Okay.
And so right now, what happens? You have a high demand for housing and a low supply. And those who have the money are going to eat up that supply.
Okay.
And so you think about one thing right now, you think about just the refugee resettlement. You got to think about this country is it's like spider webs.
Mm.
Everything is interconnected.
Okay.
Everything affects everything. One thing affects the other thing. Everything is interconnected. There's intersections, and things are impacting other things. So you
So
can't
do
just be
you
looking
think
at each thing on one scale.
so the agenda you are alluding to, Trump is colluding with those billionaires to try to control everything? Is
These are
that the
not
agenda?
agendas that I'm alluding to. This is data that exists that people, I'm not a
What's
conspiracy theorist.
what's the data? Because
We
I
about
see
to
I don't
call
see
you
any
that.
data that
I'm
exists
not
there.
exactly.
We
I,
about to call you a
I
conspiracy
Bill
support
Gates,
theorist.
Bill Gates owning
I'm
land,
not a
or Elon
conspiracy
Musk
theorist.
owning land. What does that got to do with
So
immigration? What does that got
as
to do with immigration program?
as I'm spitting out information,
Mhm.
I'm getting it from media that I do not own. My parents
Oh,
don't own it.
okay.
Black people don't own it. So I'm
Okay.
getting information, viable information from data sites and
Mhm.
and media channels that are
Mhm.
providing this data that
Okay.
I'm sharing with you.
Okay. Titus, folks that maybe watching us tonight, even from Liberia, from Sudan, from Somalia, right? Someone sitting in a refugee camp waiting to come to the United States. What message do you think that is sending to them about the suspension of this refugee program, or whatever legal means they can come to America? What message you think the whole thing is sending to them?
That,
First of
that,
all,
that,
refugees are not allowed to come from just everywhere. So let's just make some of this thing clear. A lot of
Oh,
these
what? Okay.
refugee
So
programs
what
were
are you
in
saying?
European
You
countries.
said you don't believe in conspiracy theories. So again, what did you just say?
Refugees are not being allowed to come from every country. A lot of refugees were not coming from our African countries in the first place. That's just the reality.
No,
You
but
know,
like we just mentioned, right? A lot of
yeah, they're
refugees, right?
creating it
A
for
lot of refugees
location.
that have come from Somalia. A lot of refugees that have come from like I mean, like came from Liberia. A lot of
because
refugees came
this
from Sierra
program is
Leone.
impacting Cubans, Venezuelans, Haitians. So
It's
their
impacting everyone. So it's
argument,
not just African countries. It's
no,
impacting everyone.
I'm just saying,
Uh-huh.
but these are places of high people of color, right? That's the reality. Let's just be honest. White immigrants migrating to this country has always been historically easier than black immigrants migrating to
So
this
now you're
country.
going into another black hole. You are trying to, so it's like, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to play the racist card or something?
No, I'm just putting other context to what is the reality.
So what is
We
the
want to
context? What is
we
the
want to
context?
discuss only the refugee resettlement program, but it's
Uh-huh.
not the only and we need to look at is like who, because it's a part of the agenda. You have to think, who was the refugee resettlement program benefiting, right?
Mhm.
Maybe it was benefiting, let's just say maybe it's benefiting Ukrainians and a lot of Ukrainians and Russians. Maybe those are the folks that Trump is deciding he doesn't want in his country. And so right now he's attacking the program. You have to look into things like what is the agenda behind it and what else is it impacting. Right
The,
now,
the
I
only
had to
agenda I
research
see is trying to control
what
immigration.
countries are being impacted by refugee resettlement program. And that's the reality. Like even the lottery, I think the lottery was not even being available to
Miss B, the only
Nigerians for a
agenda I
long
see
time.
is to try to control immigration. Doesn't matter where you are from, doesn't matter whether you're black or white. So why do you want to make this a black and white thing?
I'm not making it a black and white thing.
But that's
I'm
the context
saying
you're trying to bring into the fold.
I'm saying as we're
Uh-huh.
advocating
Uh-huh.
for or against things,
Uh-huh.
you need to figure out who are being most impacted and what countries are being most impacted. And I listed to you the countries that are being most impacted. That just it's not a black or white thing, but some of them just happen to have people of color, not necessarily just black people of color,
Mhm.
is not just black people,
Mhm.
right? They have to
Mhm.
happen to have high people of color populations, some of the countries that I mentioned. But
Okay.
they're not just black people. We're not the only people of color here in this world.
Okay, Titus, let me go back to my original question before Miss B brought her conspiracy theories
Maybe it's,
I'm not a
figuring it
conspiracy.
out.
into the fold, but let me just go back to my original question. Someone sitting in a in whatever country they are tonight, say, I mean, it's like 10 days ago, the administration suspended the U.S. Refugee Program, and other legal programs to come to this country might be impacted. What should they be thinking about, right? It's like what message is this sending to them about America?
I believe it has a long term implication on folks who are waiting, who have been really hopeful for attaining a dream out here, and even in some scenarios, their children, folks who have planned, they're going to leave those countries that are not suitable at the moment. And what if they even have families, to bring along the hope for a brighter future, brighter life for those kids? Just imagine that hope has been shut down. That hope has been shut down. In a sense, it brings to mind that the United States does not truly stand for the value of humanity. It
Okay.
brings a notion of devaluing, humanity. So if I were in that type of situation, these are the thoughts that will be running through my mind at this point. All the hope. This place is supposed to be the beacon of hope. The great USA, the great equalizer.
Mhm.
What's happening now?
Okay. Now, what will you think organizations, right, nonprofit, mosques, churches, whatever, what will you think they can play, right, to try to, even if, the administration is putting like restrictive policy in place, right, to restrict immigration, what role you think, right, community-based organization can play to try to say, man, this is good for our local communities. These folks come here, to your point earlier, where they contribute to the local economy or they contribute to the overall economy. what role can this organization play to try to either convince the administration or maybe put some policy proposal forward? Non-profits, churches,
I
mosques.
think I think some of these organizations have started working on the ground. They have started doing some work, but as it relates to your question, um, lay a plan out of how the immigration community, especially people that come as refugees in this country, how they
Mhm.
are contributing in the country and things that are doing positively in the country. Lay those things out and write a policy or petition to ensure that this is reinstated instead of it being suspended.
Okay.
The Red Cross is one of them, one of the major organization, international organization that have been heavily involved into bringing people over as refugees.
Okay.
um Talking to the administration, going to the United Nations as well. UN is another one that see how people that are in these devastating countries that are in war, how they're suffering, how they are dying. It shouldn't be dying. Lay these things out. Let people that have heart see that and see the positive contribution that those people are bringing to the US of A. Not just
Okay.
looking at it from helping them, say, but saving life. My brother just mentioned humanitarian is key. So I think these organizations and communities should lay those positive things out that immigrants have done over time, that have benefited the country overall.
Yeah, Ms. B, do you think the whole the refugee program and the whole immigration stuff have evolved so much, right? As I say, I just become an open door policy. Folks are just, it's like, it's like these programs are evolved over time that they have gotten out of control.
When you think about immigration program and
Mhm,
process,
mhm,
America has historically had the worst. Even with this refugee program,
mhm.
it is only recently under the Biden administration where we've had the largest for even the last 3 decades among of refugees enter into this country. That's the reality,
Okay.
right? That's why I always like to talk about the data, because that when you with the fear with no data can be very threatening. We just say, oh, all these refugees, and we put no numbers behind it.
So
But
what do you think? Okay, you keep talking about fear. What do you think is contributing to this fear? And there have been so many folks that have benefited from this program. You guys are talking about the net benefit of these programs. So what is contributing to this fear? Are these folks not putting their own battle? They are not highlighting the positive things about these programs.
the rural parts of America,
Uh,
the rural citizens of America, they operate on a different lens. That's the reality. They have real problems, but they blame other races, other nationalities for their problem, and don't blame the government not applying the necessary resources that they need. When you think about southern rural areas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, those people are living in third world country type of level of poverty in the great US of
mm,
a country that have a annual budget in the trillions. And so when they are continue to be left behind, they need somebody to blame. And unfortunately, they are real patriots. They are some of the strongest patriots, right? Although they're being left behind, instead of blaming their government, again, they're blaming other people. So if you check the data of who voted for Trump, you will see a
but
large amount of rural America voted for him.
But the reason why they are blaming their government is abandoning them and focusing on taking other people from, from third world countries and bringing them here, or sending a lot of money, overseas to other people, or or trying to take care of the whole world. So that's why they are
And
blaming their government. And what's wrong
no,
with
no,
their
no, no. I said
government trying to?
instead of blaming their
So,
government, you're right. They
so
should blame their government, right?
yeah,
And
okay.
so they place that blame under wrong pretenses, under
Uh,
wrong narrative. They
uh,
have no data to support the context that they believe in, that immigrants are their problems, black people are their problems, people of color are their problems, are the reason for their problems. And now this administration has brought solutions to deal with these people. So therefore, I want this type of administration in place. But then they're the same people when they don't have access to basic needs like medical, and all of their programs begin to lose funding when the federal government decides they're going to freeze the budget, and that budget is impacting the same rural people that voted for him to have access to clean water, to technology, to have access to the medical system. They don't think about it that way, right? Because that's the result of some of the policies that he's put in. When you freeze the federal budget and state governments cannot pay for vendors and pay for some of those resources, who's being impacted?
Okay. Titus, what's about the argument like, I mean, we have black folks on this program. What is about the argument like when too much immigration, right? It's like it takes away black jobs.
What black jobs? Who said that, Abraham? Please don't make us have to be
Black job.
During the campaign, during the campaign.
How would that take away
During
black
the
jobs?
campaign, yeah, we heard that right here, right? Is that all of these folks that were coming in, they were taking black jobs.
What jobs have ever been classified as black jobs? Please educate me to these jobs.
No, you tell me.
You know that was some of
There's a huge. I mean, the unemployment rate among blacks is high in this country.
Okay, there you go. But yeah, black people don't blame immigrants. We don't blame immigrants for our high unemployment
The
rate.
majority.
No, we do not.
Who? Oh,
Find that
no. Who
data.
told you? African Americans do blame immigrants.
No, they don't blame immigrants. Please.
Oh, come on.
Please.
Okay, Titus.
You got the
So
immigrants instead. They're doing
Titus.
the same job that African Americans doing, so we can't blame the
Titus.
immigrants.
Titus, what's that? I mean, what's your response to that argument?
I wouldn't draw the black population into this,
No.
even though we are a significant part of the marginalized community, but we're not the one peddling those the statements against immigration. It's mainly those folks that Ms. B was just talking about in their own community. They feel marginalized due to the shortage or the high competition of job security that they're looking for. They instead of blaming themselves or their local government or federal government, they blame immigration. And so Trump knows this. The first time he won, he rode this wave very well. He rode this wave. I will protect you guys as America first. I will build the wall. No wall was built. He's back. He's gonna come back because a huge of his base, a huge amount of his base, they strongly believe in this populist messaging. That America first, make America great. Oh yeah, it's our land. Get rid of the immigrants. So he will continue. I mean, the man is you. You can't take that away from him, right? A business.
What's wrong with taking care of America and making America great? What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with taking care of? What's wrong with taking care of those who play a major role in making America great? What's wrong with that? So I mean, what is the messaging? The messaging is American or America only belongs to the Europeans. Is that the messaging?
No. To all Americans. To all Americans. It's not just about I said. You guys start
but this is the mindset that we're speaking of. Because in those minds, hey, you have to get rid of these guys who continue to come in this country.
You guys are trying to play the racist card here tonight, though, because
there's no racist card being played here.
These have nothing to do with.
There is no racist card being played here. So Trump will continue to he'll continue to ride this wave of those type of Americans who believe they're economically challenged because of immigrants coming into this country and taking out their jobs. You got to look yourself in the mirror. It is not the immigrants' fault. In fact, immigrants add way more value to this economy. Again, the stats are there. We're below 0% when it comes to even the insecurity in this country. So what is the issue? What is the fear? You can only imagine something bigger that is beyond all of this, right? All just when you think about it, it really just it appears as a distraction to something more daring in the back scene.
So, do you think suspending the refugee program or suspending other legal means of coming to America is a distraction to what that might lead to something else?
When we try to put the pieces together, the
Mhm.
logical pieces do not add up.
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't
guess
make
you guys,
sense.
I'm guessing you guys are just trying to,
It,
claim
it
a,
makes it
a
makes
lot of
no
prosperity.
logical
No, the
sense.
only thing is about
The
the only thing.
You
refugee
put the
program
pieces together.
suspension, Abraham, at the end of the day is a distraction. It's a
How
low
is
It,
it?
hanging.
How is it a
It's
it
a
distraction?
looks
it's
it
a low
smells
hanging
and
fruit.
looks like a
It's a
distraction. I'm not
distraction
gonna lie.
because there's a lot of things he's promised, and there's so many things he won't be able to deliver on in his
Mm-hmm.
promises.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the low hanging fruit things that he can do,
Mm-hmm.
right? This ICE and mass deportation, these are all low hanging fruits that
Yeah,
he do,
Mm-hmm.
right? To
Mm-hmm.
distract folks from the fact that instead of a tax cut, we're gonna get a tax increase. So unless you make $360,000 or more a year, you're not gonna get a tax cut. You're gonna get a tax increase, and the wealthier people are gonna get that cut. So there's a lot of things that he has promised, but not to every American. So making America great is only for the 1%. America is so great. Only 1% of this population continues to thrive. That's how great it is. Your 99% of your population has not thrived for decades. They have been struggling, they've been suffering. 10% of this wealth belongs to, I don't know, 4 people or whatever, right? So how great is America if only 1% of the wealth in this country, I'm sorry, belongs
I disagree
to
with you. I
people?
disagree with you that making America great is only about 1%. I think it's for all Americans and about all Americans. So I disagree with you on that one.
When Jeff Bezos can
Uh-huh.
make $94 billion doing a pandemic,
Well, he's not stopping you to go and establish Amazon though. Is he stopping you from doing that?
enough said.
Okay. Well, anyway, folks. But
nah,
anyway,
but
like,
the
we can't drag this.
bureaucrats will stop her.
We cannot drag this all night. This has been a great discussion, great topic. As I said, when the door closes, right, the consequences of ending the resettlement program, it has been suspended for about 90 days, right? I mean, to look at it further. But what it is going to lead to? Are other programs going to be affected? Is that are they going to look at other legal means of coming to America? But Mel, as we try to wrap this up tonight, right, to folks listening, wherever they are listening to us from around the world, whether in Liberia, Somalia, wherever, right? What message, and to folks here, right, to immigrants that are here, what message, right? We live in an environment right now that is very tense. I mean, since 10 days ago, the administration came, right? The immigrant communities, right? It has been tense. A lot of things going on, right? You guys might call it distraction, but there's so much going on. What message, right, to immigrants, right, that are here, or folks listening around the world, right? What message do you want to leave with them tonight about the current environment, especially with so much focus on immigration and immigrants?
Yeah, my brother. Thank you guys. Thank you tonight. This conversation is meaningful. I think what I can say though, people really don't have control over things that happen in their country. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to speak to leaders of those countries, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think it is about time that African leaders, put their acts together so their people don't seek refuge in other countries. If they are doing what they need to do,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have no means of leaving our country. If the country is stable, we're in the creating job for its people. These countries are capable of these things, right? We have a lot of these resources. We're just being poorly managed. So speaking to those leaders, specifically in Africa, you
Mm-hmm.
know, we should be ashamed of our leaders that
Mm-hmm.
every time you have people trying to leave your country, the question should be, why are they leaving my country? Why are they leaving you don't honor my leadership? What is going on? Figure that out and try to solve it. We are not solving our problems, but we are creating problems. For a lot of the people that are looking for opportunity, they're not looking for opportunity outside of their country because they want to, because that's all they can do to make life better. So I'll speak to that. And then what I would say, to a lot of the people that are in America, mostly that are saying, um, immigrants are taking their jobs. That is not truth. Everywhere you go nowadays, you see, posters saying we are hiring, you have job availability everywhere. So how can you say that when the people taking your jobs and you have all of these jobs availability? Do not listen to the narrative, the false narrative to kind of put you under the impression that people are coming into your country to take a job or cause problem. Those narratives are not true. Look for the facts. Get to know the people that are migrating to your country and get to understand why and get to understand what they are bringing. So I will end with that, guys. I hope our African leaders can try to watch this and do something about their situation. We can be established 60 years, 100 years, 200 plus years, and we still go through the same cycle every time and not try to solve it. This is why we're having this conversation. My brother, if Liberia was saved today, I'm from Liberia. If everything was good in Liberia, when I go to school and finish school, I found a job. I'm not going to think about coming to America. I'll just come here to visit and go right back. So there you go. That's how I'm going
Yeah.
to close tonight.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Titus, what do you, as I so I gave you a last question, but the message you want to leave with the folks tonight also is like, I want to ask, I want to add another dimension here, right? It's like where immigrants and immigration contribute to lower wages, right? Ms. B have been trying to or suppress wages. They
You
have
get
been
lower wages.
suppress wages. I mean, it's like some of these folks, right? It's like when you come
When
here
did
as
I
a
say that?
when I'm not saying you, I'm just saying that you've been talking about how the 1% this, the 1% that businesses, but so I just want to bring this other dimension
Would you
in, right?
blame that on immigrants?
Hey, they come here to suppress wages, right? It's like I
There's
mean
this
because
thing
they take
called
anything. Somebody
capitalist.
come here.
We're
If you're
living in a
making one
capitalist
dollar,
system.
wait. If you're making $1, if you're making $1 in Liberia, you come here, they pay
Wow.
you, they offer you $5. Won't you take it? Won't
It's
you
not
take
the
it?
same. It's not the same.
But they're not setting
Giving
the minimum wage, and the minimum wage is as low as $2 in this country. The federal, what is the federal minimum wage?
So
The federal
if we
minimum
were
wage
just
is not
like the
even.
American citizen, what Trump is saying, right? We can raise this if we just restrict immigration.
No, he is. That math is not mathing.
it
Okay.
is definitely not
Anyway,
nothing. It is not
anyway,
the case.
status. But as we on a serious note, as we close tonight, what message you want to leave with the folks around the world, folks that are here, immigrants that are here, right? Because these are policies, right? Like we have one way or another, we have all benefited from something that have, made us to come here. What message you want to leave for folks that are here, right? Is like, as Miss B said earlier, election have consequences, right? Politics here in America is big and things like that. And then for folks around the world, right, who are looking to America as a beacon of hope and freedom, what message you want to leave with them tonight as we wrap up?
Well, for the folks who are here, who have been here for ages, I'm sure by now you're realizing that the dream that was sold to us, you only achieve it when you're asleep. you know, the reality of America is evolving as the time goes by. And for those out there looking in, just relate to the experiences that your brothers and sisters here are going through, right? Yes, this is the land of opportunity that we'll always be grateful to and grateful for. But at the same time, there are policy makers and leaders who are bent on retrogressing the greatness and the narrative of these great United States. America's greatness has always been um, big or held on immigration. Since when was America great without immigration? It has always been on the backs of immigration. The fact that folks from all across the world are allowed to come here
Mm-hmm.
and practice freely, live
Mm-hmm.
freely.
Yeah.
This is what makes America great, to
Okay.
seek opportunities,
Yeah.
right? And better themselves.
Okay.
These are the different tenets and characteristics that make America a great place.
Okay.
Taking this away from America, are you really making America great? But I'm pretty sure that a lot of these rhetoric
Okay.
that the leader of the free world right now is spewing, I'm pretty sure there's Congress. There's a system here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of these things will just be narratives that will go on, but we're hoping that most of them will not be implemented because there are systems here in place
Yeah.
that will be able to reverse a lot of these things
Yeah.
because they're just not realistic to the core values and beliefs of the United States.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for your closing message to our audience out there. Miss B, what's your closing message with your conspiracy theories about, the 1%, the this and that? We're talking about immigration, talking about 1%, but anyway, money people always want to talk about money people, so we understand that. But what message you want to leave with the folks out there tonight, from around the world, right? Folks that are, looking out, coming in, and folks that are here, right? Immigrant, a lot of, as you guys say, right? There's a country of immigrants, a lot of immigrants are here, but these are part is like immigration has been in the news a lot. 10 days ago, when administration had taken over, immigration and a lot of immigrant communities are on edge. What message you want to leave with folks that are here that have benefited from these programs and folks that are outside looking in?
I just employ my African immigrants, my immigrants as a whole. I know you come to this country and you've been giving a dream or pitched, how your life is going to be this and it's going to be that. But while you're here, you have access to information. Please take the time to do your due diligence and research and get the data and get the information correctly. Knowledge is power, and knowledge cannot be taken away from you. And knowledge is free, right? So empower yourself by getting information. I know we're talking about immigration. This is nothing new. Immigration happened like this. Deportation happens every year. 150,000 people get deported every year in this country. So it's not something that's just happening. So these are distractions. They're unfortunate realities and unfortunate distractions, but there's bigger agendas behind these, right? We talk about the DEI program real quick. White women benefited from that program more than Black people as a whole. So we talk about affirmative action. There's a thing called gender affirmative action, which again, white women benefited from affirmative action more than Black people. A lot of these things get perpetuated as black and white, but it shouldn't be black and white. At the end of the day, 99%, we're all black and white. Percent of this population in America, we're all black and white. We are all facing the same issues and problems and concerns. Let's come together and figure out a solution. The administration is only a few 200 or less people in these different offices. We are more than them. We are the experts. Let's come together and figure out the solutions to all these problems.
So with that, sometimes Miss B like to jump ahead of herself, right? DEI is coming here, but I want to bring an expert to discuss that DEI because we have been hearing a lot of stuff about DEI, DEI this, DEI that, but we are bringing some expert to discuss that because we feel like that would benefit the community. Some of the stats we are putting out here, right? We want to make sure we hear from some expert, right? What's the real number behind this whole DEI? Because even the accident I have been watching on yesterday, they said it was DEI that caused it. So I want to know what's going on with DEI. So
where do you be getting your news from?
But
That's what Trump said, right?
You didn't listen to the press conference, man. The president, it was DI.
That's what Trump said.
What did he say?
When you guys are in power, you're just doing all the DI, all the work culture. Then we kind of try to fix it. Then you guys have problem, But anyways, folks, this whole week we are focused on immigration. We are focused on immigration. Our communities are tense. Immigrant communities from all over the United States, right? U.S. community are very, very tense. So thanks for joining us this week. Next week, as we start February, the ladies say it's a love month. So different topics are going to be coming. We're going to be bringing some love topics, this and that topic. So join us next week as we begin February. But this is your show, your community show. Thanks for joining us every night. And good night, folks. See you next week. See you next week, Tuesday.
Hey, guys. Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.